Yeah.
I
My
got it
cat
figured out.
Bruno is obsessed with the outdoors, but he's an indoor cat, but I have a harness for him. And when I tell you that, like, he gets up in the morning, he'll wake me up and he meows and meows and meows. He has a certain meow that everybody knows is like Bruno wants to go outside. And he'll come in and he literally communicates that to me, like, okay, time to take me for a walk. Then we got to go outside. He got to do
Yeah.
runs around the yard in the grass. And then when he's ready to come back in, he'll let me know that. Like, it's never on my time. It's never like, okay, Bruno, let's go back in. It's when he decides to. It's hilarious.
Yeah. So you're one of those crazy cat ladies with her cat on a leash. I love it.
Yep.
I'm proud of it. I'm proud
Oh,
of it.
proud of it. I
I,
have a backpack for him too. He's been in PetSmart in my backpack. It's like a see-through backpack. Like you can see him and he just lies down in his backpack and is on my back. It's hilarious.
I grew up just like any other kid in Newport, Newfoundland. Around, on, and sometimes even in the water. I grew up wanting to be a sailor, just like my father. I eventually sailed on ships all over the world for 20 years. Then I met this guy, Greg Wells. He bought a 100-year-old church in my hometown. Along with a great team of people, we've seen very special things happening there. My name is Ryan Gates. This is my hometown of Winterton, Newfoundland. This is Downey's Bank, Scilly Cove Records Podcast. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Downey's Bank Podcast. As per usual, I'm your host, Ryan Gates, and today I'm joined by the lovely Miss Rachel Cousins. Welcome to the show, Rachel. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for coming to Winterton last weekend. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I had so much fun.
I've heard from. I mean, obviously it's a small town, and we're doing big things in a small town. I mean, this is huge news. Obviously, everything we're doing at Trinity Hall and Scilly Cove Records is big news. So I've had a ton of people who've reached out to me since the show saying, "Oh my God, the opening act was so good. Oh my God, Rachel was so good. All the room sounded so good. All of the above was had already been mentioned to me in a couple of days, and seeing the response online as well. People liking posts, sharing posts, talking about it. It was unique because again, this is really our first show. We had an album release party for Courtney Wicks way back when we did our grand opening, and the grand opening was a show all in itself. But our first ticketed paid show where we actually went out to the public and said, okay, we have a product to offer. Are you willing to pay the price? We all went in fingers crossed, and it was Rachel Cousins live at Trinity Hall. And for anyone who doesn't know, it was a sold out show. Right down to the wire. Actually, I'll call a sold out show if there's like 5 seats left that are individual seats or whatever. I'll usually call it a sellout because realistically a couple can't come and purchase that seat. But in the case of Rachel Cousins live at Trinity Hall, it was actually a full sellout. We had 5 seats left, and it was 3, and it was 2, and it was 1, and we sold the last seat 15 minutes before the show started. So full capacity for the show. We had a great opening act of, gotta get their names right now or they'll be some mad at me. Alyssa Delaney, Emma Bursey, and Hillary North. 3 young girls, 16 years old, who attend our local high school here. They're going to grade 12 this year, and talented young singers in their own right, and really blew the roof off it even before you had a chance to get on stage. So I want to introduce you before we get talking about all that good stuff. Give people a little bit more background on you. So first and foremost, you're the first townie on the Downey's Bank podcast. Born and raised, growing up in St. John's, right?
Yep.
Yeah. No, and no discredit. A lot of my best friends are townies, but it's a different dynamic and a different way of growing up too. Certainly musically,
100%.
you were
for sure.
Like, what kind of an impact do you think growing up in the city and having access to all that live music and all those venues? How did that impact you growing up?
Oh my goodness. I mean, a lot of my family comes from the Burin Peninsula. I have tons of family out in Point May and Grand Bank and Marystown. But honestly, like there's not a lot of music in my family. Of course there's like the scattered guitar and all that kind of stuff during Christmas, especially, and shed parties. But in terms of like music in the family, there wasn't a whole lot of it. But my family loves music, and they've always loved music before I even became a part of their world. My parents would take me like anywhere that they went after they had me. My mom said that there was many a night where I was literally stuck down to her feet in my rocker, just like absolutely sound asleep in a bar, just listening to music everywhere I went. Like I was that baby. And I'm grateful for my parents for doing that, because I think that it did instill a lot of like musicality and stuff in me. And my parents were always just so supportive and making sure that I got out to see this music because it wasn't in my family. They knew that they had to go that extra step to like expose me to this stuff and put me in singing lessons and get me to the places I needed to be to hear and see more music. So yeah, my family loves music and adores it just as much as I do. And I think that that's a big part of why I do what I do as well.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about music is you don't need to be musically talented or musically inclined to still have your fingers in the pie, so to speak, because like I'm a musician, but I mean hobby at best. Like I'm, guy picks up the guitar at a party. I can play for a couple of hours of old tunes. Can I sing?
Yeah.
Yes. Should I sing? Probably not. Probably not, right? But again, I still love music, and here I am now involved with this project where I still get to be heavily involved in music and talking with folks like yourself who are, maybe you're a professional musician at this point. You're working your way through your own career, and it really keeps me connected to something that I'm really passionate about as well. I'm uber jealous. Like when I hear you guys singing and playing guitar, I feel like coming home and beating up all my stuff, like the big fire in the backyard and burn my guitars. But yeah, no, it's really a beautiful thing. And in chatting with your folks, and I mean, I believe your grandfather was at the show too, wasn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So just chatting with some of your family and stuff. I can feel the passion in them too for music, whether they're musical or not. Because I think that as a whole, Newfoundlanders in general, I think we're probably a lot more musical and musically inclined than per capita than probably anywhere else in Canada. I know I got nothing to back that up with, but just from my own travels, I've traveled a lot.
Yep.
And
I totally agree.
People are into it, right?
Yep, 100%.
So let's talk some more about you before we get talking about your connection with Trinity Hall and the Cove Records and all that good stuff. So you started off roughly around the same age as the girls who opened for you, which I think is a cute fact in itself. So you're 22 years old now. You started when you were 16-ish, taking it to that next level of seriousness. Obviously, you'd been singing and playing before you were 16, but that's when you really kind of launched into it. Because I remember hearing your name the first time. I believe it was when you won the Sing NL contest. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So walk us through how that kind of, you win an award and you kind of get a bit of, the local press and all that good stuff, and how that leads into you know what, I want to take this incredibly seriously and kind of dive into it for a career. How does that progression happen?
So I started in musical theater as a young girl. As soon as I could speak, I was singing, and I was putting off shows in my living room for my parents and always asking to be on camera and stuff like that. So they put me in musical theater from a very young age, and I got a taste for being on stage and what that adrenaline rush was like. And the minute that I was put on stages like that, I was, hooked. And then things like Sing NL happened, like competitions, and it was more so of like a reassuring thing for me. It showed me how capable I was of being able to like fight the nerves and get on these stages and do it competitively at that kind of level. And so yeah, it just showed me like my capabilities as an artist when I was like 16, 17-ish. And then I was writing and recording music, so I got a taste of the studio. All of that happened like within those few years, and it was when I like started to really take music seriously, was when all that happened, just because I knew how capable I was then, I think.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that, because the vote of confidence, I think, is a big thing, certainly with young people. Old people like me, like when you get into your 30s and 40s, I don't really care what people think of me, to be honest. If it's something I want to do, I'm going to do it. I think for young people, however, like again, yourself going and winning that contest, and again, people, coming out to the forefront, people you've never met before. Because again, I'm one of those people who, if you want to compliment, ask your family, right? You're never going to get the full honest opinion. Maybe you will, maybe in your situation, because you're a little bit different, but for the most part, family are incredibly biased. But when you get perfect strangers who come up and say, that was beautiful, or this was nice, or I like that, or I didn't like this, or I didn't like that, I think that means a lot more to the individual, certainly the artist, than hearing it from your friends and family, because they tend to fall into the cheerleader category really quickly, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've had this early success as a teenager, and then decided you've clearly made a decision you wanted to move forward with this, but then you start having further successes. You've got some spots on TV and in movies. Hockey Night in Canada was an interesting one that I read in your bio. How did that come about?
That came about because of my publishing deal. The thing that Vince is so very good at, Vince and Patrick, who are like I call them my team pretty much. They're like a dream team. So they reach out about these like syncs and these placements, and Hockey Night in Canada was one of them. And they played Let Go on Hockey Night in Canada. Like between a transition thing of like when the play stops and then whatever. They played Let Go, and it was unreal. Like I come from a hockey family too. My dad's big into hockey, my brother is too. So of course we were all like aware of this and what was going on. So that was huge. That was really, really exciting because it's something that I've like heard about all my life. Like Hockey Night in Canada is big when you're in a hockey family. So to have my song played during that, it was pretty cool. Yeah, I must say.
And that song has seen a lot of success as well. I mean, aside from getting played on local radio, which is it's still a staple now. How old is the song for starters? That I don't know.
Oh God, 2017, 2018,
It's
I
been a
think
while.
it's been a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still in regular circles on our local hit station. It's really funny. I cannot remember the situation or what it was. It was something leading up to the grand opening. We had already decided you were coming, and I was like, I got to reach out to Rachel about something that crossed my mind. I was at Walmart at the time, and then
Yeah.
boom, on comes the song. I was like, okay, I clearly got to call her right now, and we got to sort this out right now because like this is so obscure, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's when I mean I heard your name, like I said, as a child artist. But when that song dropped originally, and I heard it on our on local stations for the first time, I was like, okay, now this girl's got some talent, and it's more noticeably not Celtic Irish Newfoundland music, which is what you technically when and that's no knock on that industry because I love it. I dearly love traditional music, but it's not where we've bred a lot of success as
Right.
a community that develops artists. So
Yeah.
what about that? I mean, coming into your more formidable years, and knowingly going on a road that's kind of untraveled for a Newfoundland artist. What were your big stumbling blocks? Or I know you wrote a song about fear to fail. Sorry, fear of failure, and I'd like to just for you to elaborate on that a little bit because I think a lot of people might be able to connect with that.
Yeah. That was a big part of my career, honestly, was like becoming a pop artist in Newfoundland. There's a little bit of like rap and stuff here. Like when you get down into the rap community, like there's a lot of great artists and stuff here. I think that's another thing about Newfoundland is that if you're not trad and if you're not, whatever, folk even, then you're kind of like tucked away, not even on your own, like not by your own hand, but you're just kind of tucked away into like other venues and this kind of thing. And it's not as publicized. So there's a lot of like music sitting in Newfoundland that I believe would totally break through to like mainstream radio and stuff, but it's just a little more tucked away. So for me, that was a big challenge when I released Let Go. I was also going away from like my folk roots, like This Fire, which was my first debut EP. That started as like a folk rock kind of thing. So like to branch out from that, I was afraid that people weren't going to get it. I was afraid that people were going to say, oh my God, she's switching genres, like not going to listen to it anymore. I was afraid it just like wasn't going to be taken well in Newfoundland. Like the other thing is that Newfoundland has an aging population. Like that is just like how it is. And Newfoundland has been an aging population for years. So I was also just like nervous about like my aesthetic and my visuals and like my lyric content, like all of those things I thought about a lot because I was like, I'm afraid that the people of Newfoundland are going to hear this and be like, oh, just another one of those trash party songs and whatever. But it wasn't. And I was very, very, very surprised. I'm not going to lie when people were like, oh, this is like, I really like this pop stuff for you. So then when I got further into that, I genuinely just like over time began loud and proud saying like I don't like genres. I'm not conforming to them anymore. My next song that I'm releasing is going to be once again different than what I've been releasing, and then the song after that is going to be different again. But that's how I like making music. Like what I've always done is just make and release upon how I'm feeling about it. There's lots of mainstream artists now who are putting an acoustic song on an album and then the next one is like a dance track. So like why not? You know what I'm saying? And I think that the more Newfoundland gets that idea, that the mainland and mainstream music already have, I think it's just going to be so sick to see a bunch of music just flourishing like in our province because of that, because people will just start giving up on genres and conforming music like that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I guess we can just knock it on the head there. This is it. Podcast is over. You killed it. No, I'm just kidding. We can't let you go yet. No, but so true though. I mean,
Yeah.
there really is, and I don't want to put words in Greg's mouth because that's not fair. But I think when he came with the original vision for Trinity Hall, I think he envisioned just that. I mean, he grew up in a Newfoundland-based family, so there was all those traditional roots and traditional music that he was familiar with. But I don't think. And actually, I know because I've heard him say it before. He was completely gobsmacked at the level of talent that he stumbled upon on this little island.
Right.
And I think it's because we've been a bit of a cultural melting pot of all kinds of. I mean, obviously, we don't have a. we are one of the whitest populations in Canada. I will say that, but that's slowly changing as well. But outside of that, there are still a lot of cultures that have come in. The French and the English and the Spanish, like all these.
And a lot of Irish too. That's a lot of like
Irish.
the culture, right? See, so it's like a mixing pot of cultures. Like that's what it is. Yeah.
And I think that's what's breeding such amazing music. And Greg, being who he is, flipped onto that really quickly. And it's like, okay, we got to capture some of this and give it a little, like he says, blow a little bit of wind in the sail, because like you guys don't need any help. There's no help needed, but if there's some that can be offered, right? Which leads me to my next topic. I think we'll drop a little bit of news right now that Greg has offered to do some songwriting with you.
Yeah.
Mr. Greg Wells reached out to Rachel Cousins and said, Rachel, you can proceed, because I think it's time that we at least let down, because that's going to happen regardless.
Yes. So I'm like over the moon, because this is, I mean, obviously this is like a dream come true, because like as a pop artist and as like a singer-songwriter, I have a lot of like people who are like my ideals to work with. Like there's a lot of producers that I just think about and I'm like, oh my God, like the tracks we could make and da 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 da. And I know my producer does the same thing. It's just like how we work, like how our brains work, thinking about people who like, oh, I know we would make a good song together, et cetera, et cetera. And Greg is obviously one of those producers to me. Like I've always looked at him as like genuinely an icon when it comes to like music and songwriting and all of these things. And I often have like, and this is not me saying like I'm so smart, but I think starting my career so young, I kind of have a radar for like when I know that a person is genuine and when I know that a person is a genius without shoving it in your face. You can just look at them and be like, oh, I know that their ticker is ticking all the time, but they won't let you see that. And I got that from Greg immediately. And that is another reason why I was just like so excited to work with him and so grateful and honored that he'd even bring that on to me, because it's like a genuine and a genius thing. And I can tell that the ticker is ticking and you're thinking of things that maybe other people haven't thought of. And that's what I love about people, is like when you find connections like that. So that's why I'm so excited. Like, I think that this will be a really good opportunity to see like what Greg is able to bring out of me musically and what we're able to bounce around with and that kind of stuff. Like, that's what really gets me excited when I think about new projects like this.
Yeah. And I find it really interesting too, because Greg has been incredibly successful in the pop field. And I think he'll probably be the first to tell you that pop is not something he grew up on. So like, I think having that, because I mean, Greg is jazz trained to the hilt when it comes to his upbringing. And I think that parlays really well into the creative side of the pop music that he's been a part of. So I'm super excited. I'm over the moon to see what you guys can come up with. And I mean, Greg's written on some really important albums. I mean, he co-wrote with Adele on 21, and it's only
like he's written some of my, that's the other thing. Like he's been a part of some of my favorite music, which is like, Yeah.
No, listen, you don't need to explain it to me. Every day I have a pinch me moment with this whole project,
right?
Every single day, because my favorite thing about Greg Wells, going back to your previous point, is that unless you knew his success, or unless he told you, you would never know.
Right, exactly.
And to me, that's the consummate professional, right?
Like very important. Yeah.
Like, oh, if I was as successul as Greg Wells, you'd know it.
Right, exactly. I'm like, that'd be the elephant. I'd be standing in the center of the room letting everybody know.
No, I don't think you would, but I get where you're coming from. But yeah, no, like to that point, I think that, and I mean, I'm not gonna not going to pat myself on the back here in any way, shape, or form, but in different projects I've been involved with over the years, I've had a chance to mingle with and associate myself with people like Greg. Not all were at quite that level of success, Grammy award-winning artist type thing, like world renowned, but I've had the opportunity to work with some very, very successful people in different industries, and they all have that common bond that underneath they're all just the regular people, and they carry themselves as such. And I've truly believe that's part of the recipe for success. I really do.
Yeah.
So no, I'm interested to see what you guys can cook up, because again, fantastic songwriter himself, and like I said, Greg has said many times, I've heard him say it many times, he's like, I'm not a songwriter, but I am a songwriting collaborator, like, you know what I mean? He said it to me many times. He's like, no, I'm a musician first, but he said the songwriting thing is something that I've, you know, been able to be a part of and be successful with, which I even find hilarious. Greg, he's like, oh no, I'm multi-instrumentalist, yes, but I'm a drummer. I'm like, you play piano better than anybody I've ever heard in my life. Ever.
Oh yeah.
Right. So again,
that was crazy. Yeah.
Super humble dude. And I think, like I said, I think that's why he fits in so well here. I mean, generally, Newfoundlanders are pretty easygoing, humble people. So I think that was a part of his upbringing, and makes him what he is today. But anyway, like I said, you guys, can't wait to see it. You heard it here first. Rachel's going to be writing a tune with at least a tune with Greg. So that's going to be real exciting stuff. So what else you got coming up now in the near future? I know you got a new track dropping. You kind of hinted to that a minute ago.
Yeah. So I'm dropping a new song. I haven't even released the name of it yet, because I'm like really excited to just see people's raw reaction to this music. I haven't released anything since Aura, so I'm really excited to just like see it all unfold as it is. There's been a few hints, like people won't notice it, like subliminally hinting about like the lyrics and the name of the song on my Instagram for months. Like we've been, you know, and I'm sure if people listen to this, they're going to go back and stalk my Instagram, and that's fine. Hopefully you find what the song of the name or what the song is. But yeah, it's a little scavenger hunt for people. But yeah, so I'm releasing a new song on the 12th. And then I already have a bunch of music, because the past few months I've been really focused on writing and recording. So yeah, I've worked with some like really great people. I made a trip up to Halifax and wrote some tunes as of recent. Made really great connections at ECMAs. So like the past few months have just been all of those follow-ups, like writing more music and recording that. So there's a whole bunch of music like in my roster now that I'm just waiting. And I'm so excited. Like I'm so excited to like finally get more visuals and more music out and just like be on that roll again. So yeah, right now I'm in full on like writing and recording mode. And then hopefully like after a summer of singles, I'll be really, really heavy into album writing mode. So yeah,
that's what we're real excited about now too. Because I mean, Aura was a great album. I shouldn't say
was.
It is a great album. I hate saying was, like it's past tense, and
I know, but I talk about it the same way. It's like a dead album now, and then you come up with another one. All artists do that, though. I swear to God, all artists do that. Everybody does that, and then you're like, oh, I still have to perform this album, and I'm already over that. And you're like, my audience hasn't even heard it yet. Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah,
I know, it's terrible. What I'd like to chat about briefly is because I mean you've had some, and I mean in recent years, really, really interesting success and connections with some of the big wigs in the local industry, i.e., Alan Doyle. You and Alan are, I don't want to say BFFs because that might be a little bit of a heavy one, but you guys have become friends, and he clearly appreciates you as an artist. How did that relationship kind of come about?
So it was during. Well, actually, I sang with Alan a few years ago when he was doing a gig down at the Mallard Cottage, down at the Mallard Inn.
Seen the clip.
Yeah, literally. It's all over Facebook. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube too. But he had invited me to sing with him. And we sang an Irish song together. And it was like absolutely beautiful. And then we just stayed in contact after that. I remember being gobsmacked that even happened. And I was like so excited. But after that, he just like, he's another one of those guys. Like a lot of people know that about Alan, that he's just like another genuine genius. So he just stayed in contact with me after that. And I've said that he was like a mentor to me, like throughout that project, Songs from Home. He just took me under his wing, like especially during COVID. That was really helpful to me. And just like taught me a lot about music and taught me a lot about being an artist. And not even intentionally, but just by watching and just by talking to me, like he just taught me a lot about that.
Mm.
And yeah, he's always been great. Like anytime that, he has anything or anything like that, like I'm always messaging him and saying congrats. And he's just always been very genuine, and he cares a lot about like the youth music here too. Which is like amazing as well, because there's a lot of like really, really great musicians that have been, known for years and years and years in the city. So then when they help lift up the next generation of music, that means a lot. So, for
Mm.
Alan to be doing that, for me, it's like it's just really important. My mom says it all the time that like, like the Alan Doyle and Corey Tetford and all of them, those were like the guys that she would watch in the bars growing up. And she's like, those are the people that are now helping like my generation of musicians
Mhm.
here in Newfoundland. Corey's another one who literally like mentored me. He wouldn't even like say that he helped me this much, but like he really did. Just a bunch of those guys just helped me a lot more than they even think they did when I was just doing shows with them at like 16 years old, and they were the band talking to me about being a musician and growing up in the industry. Like they've always been like that.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very grateful for that, because then, we're the next generation of music, and then I'll do it the same for the next gen. I think it's just such a beautiful thing. So if anything, my connection with Alan just like showed me the importance of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I can see that in you too, because I mean, all this stuff is coming full circle. Because I don't know you well. I've gotten to know you a little bit through this process, and I can see that you're a people watcher like me. And that's just, there are people in the world who are what I call people watchers, who
Yep.
you sit back, you silently observe, and you kind of take it. Okay, sometimes, most of the time, your first impression. As people say, first impression is very important. It is, because first impression is usually
Normally right.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, there's maybe something lurking.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I can see that, and I can see too from the research I did leading up to your show, the work that you've done with again, the Stella Circle stuff, the food bank, this kind of thing. Your work in bullying, which I do want to touch on before this closes, because I think that's something that needs to be talked about anytime anybody's in front of a microphone.
Yeah.
But I can see that your platform is leaning that way, which is great. Which is what I want to bring the next topic to, is those 3 young girls who opened for you at 16 years of age, and you made their night when you said, okay, so like, we're going to have to at some point write a song together and maybe perform again at Trinity Hall. I've heard from all 3. They're over the moon. They're super excited. What did you think of their performance?
Oh my goodness, I was blown out of the water. Like my parents and my pop will vouch for me, because sitting in that chair, I was so zoned in on them the whole time. And like, I said to them as well after the show, I said, there's like an idea of what people have. Like when people say, okay, like we're going to have 16-year-old girls, sing a couple songs, people will, because it's how people work. People will create an image and a preconceived idea of what that's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I want you guys to know that you shattered that idea of like what it means to be a 16-year-old musician, because I was like, you genuinely performed that. I said to him, I was like, you can just take the rest of my set you want. Cause like it was headliner material. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like it was
I was standing next to you when you said that, so I can vouch that you said that.
yeah. Like I just said to them, I was like, you're very like ahead of your time. Their song choices were insane.
Oh,
Their stage performance, their chemistry, all of it. Like I thought that it was just like so beyond their years. And I couldn't tell them that enough afterwards. I was like, I hope you know how good you are, because you're really good. Like it was really, really good. I can't even imagine even their original song. I could go on for a really long time, because their original music was unreal. Like I was not writing music like that when I was 16. My music at 16 did not sound like that. So like I was really trying to tell them, like, you are so talented. Please do not let this go. Please do not give it up. Like it's really, really good. Like really good.
Yeah, and it's even more shocking when you tell people after the show it's the first time they ever performed together. Like, I mean, as a band, I mean, they've been friends since elementary school. They've played together many times, but to actually take the stage as part of a show as a trio was the first time. It was the first time they ever performed that original tune. Period. Other than practicing it together. Yes.
And then the way that I think about it, because I was like also that, I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine what would happen if you have people like this? Like, imagine if they were rehearsing all the time and had a mentor to help them and da 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 da. Like that could be a full on, you are main stage ready in 2 years. You're ready for like a huge stage. That's what I'm saying. Like that's what I see when I watch people like that.
Oh,
because I can see that it's not just like a hobby thing for them. Like it's like true musicality. You feel it in you. You have the voice, whatever. So yeah, that's what I saw with them. Like just true, genuine like musicality and love for it, which I
yeah.
love.
I really appreciate that take too, because you echoed all the same things that I was thinking, but you put them into words better than I could because of your background, I guess. But the one thing that stood out to me from their performance, they did a cover of "I'm on Fire" by Bruce Springsteen, and Hillary took the lead vocal on that, and she has the three vocals are incredibly different and incredibly unique
Yeah,
and blend incredibly well. It's sickening
yeah,
how good they are. But
yeah.
Hillary's vocal is really soulful. It's very, very soulful. So she took the lead on that song, and at the very first time that the harmony cut in for the chorus of "I'm on
I have
Fire,"
cold shivers. I
cold
have
shivers,
cold shivers.
and there was an audible response from from
Yeah,
from the from the the crowd, which is very hard to do mid song. Everybody went
yep,
or
yep.
ah, or oh my god, or wow. I heard all those things. I got a clip on my phone I just found today, which I'll share at some point, of you can hear the song, but you can hear the audible response even more so
Mhm.
mid song, because the
Yep.
harmony was boom, pitch right on, boom, it was there.
Yep.
So yeah, no, those girls are got a lot of road ahead of them, and I'm hoping that I know they've been looking up to you for quite some time already, so that's really cool. Like I said, you're beating a new path. You have been for quite some time, and to know that you're inspiring some of these young performers must be a real treat for you in itself. So,
Oh, it literally makes it worth it for me, 100%.
oh, absolutely. So I guess one more thing to talk about. Big announcement, big announcement, huge even. Uh, you're going to be working on your next record, hopefully, if all things fall in line. Produced by who?
Greg Wells.
Greg Wells. So, Greg reached out to me as well after the show, and because he's been keenly interested in Rachel ever since the beginning. You came along really early on and expressed interest in the project and said, like if there's anything I can do for you guys, blah blah. I'm gonna be doing some touring this summer. I'd like to get out of the city because I've been in the city. I've done that. I'd like to get out around. I was like, hey, well, let's do a show. And at that point, send along your material to Greg and everything else. He's like, yeah, no, she's really really good. And then, of course, you volunteered to come out as part of our. I shouldn't say volunteered. We wanted to have you out, and then you said yes, you would come out for our grand opening, with the likes of Justin Fancy, Kelly Loader, Andrew Rogers, Ray Johnson. The list goes on and on and on. But we had a bucket list of grade A talent and local talent as well that day. And then, of course, we fell right into the show from last weekend, which again was a sold out show. I'll talk some more about that some other time, because I did no discredit to Rachel Cousins or the genre. I just didn't foresee it selling out a venue in Outport, Newfoundland. But what do I know, right?
I didn't either. Neither
Isn't
did my
it?
mother. So like nobody really did. Like it was crazy.
I mean, but again, it goes to show that maybe Newfoundland's ready for something different. Maybe
Uh-huh.
maybe Rachel Cousins is onto something. Maybe there is a lot of that underground music that we need to start unearthing and getting out to the
Mhm.
population. The world's become a lot more of a smaller place thanks to the internet and thanks to technology. Maybe Newfoundland outports and venues are ready for something a little different. So I'm super pumped about it all. But anyway, back to the announcement. So you got an opportunity now to record a record with Greg Wells, hopefully under the Scilly Cove Records label. What do you foresee that looking like, besides being the best Rachel Cousins album of all time?
Oh my goodness. I think that it's gonna teach me a lot about like making I this is how I feel. This is like what my intuition is telling me. I think that it's going to teach me a lot about making pop music. I think it's going to teach me a lot about my capabilities when it comes to lyricism. I give up a lot on myself when I'm like writing by myself, or it's hard to explain, but I'm sure other artists get that feeling. I just tend to give up on myself because I don't dig deep enough. So I think having a producer like Greg, who will also literally be a mentor to me during that time period, because of course we're making music together, like that's huge.
That's how it works. Yeah.
um yeah, I think that it'll be um really cool for me to have somebody like show me what we can do differently with my music and the things that I'm capable of releasing, and just that kind of stuff. Like I think it'll be really exciting to experiment and use new sounds. I think that it's like I'm at the point in my career now where I'm like really loving to just branch out and create with a bunch of different people. I love co-writing. I write with a bunch of different people over Zoom. Like I just said, I just got back from Halifax from working with another producer. So I just love the idea of making music with different people because it sounds different with everybody you make music with as well.
Mm.
So I'm just really excited to see what it's going to turn out like and what it's going to feel like to make new music. I'm so excited to make new like pop, upbeat pop music, which I think is going to go really well with Greg too. So yeah, I'm just really excited to see how it turns out just as much as everybody else is.
Yeah, I would say. I'm
Mhm.
anyway, the again, pinch me moments, get in
Uh-huh.
line. It's one of those like all these things happening to people who I either know or have known of for quite some time, at this level, which to call a spade, if you were to approach said individual in Los Angeles and say, I want to pay you to make a record for me on a regular day, they might not even answer the phone. You know, and
Right.
here we are with
Yeah.
this. My point being, that's not just as an example, but that's the level of access that we've afforded ourselves here now because of this project. And what an opportunity for you, for everybody who's been involved in this, to Claire Follis, to Summer Bennett's, to Billy Hickeys, to Fairgales, to the Yes Officers, to Courtney Wickses, all these people who've been able to, even just to be able to pick Greg's brain is $1 million opportunity. Forget
Yeah.
recording an album, right? This
Yeah.
is one of those things that I take advantage of on the daily. I'm always asking him stupid questions. He must be like, what is wrong with this person? Is he out to lunch? I'm asking him stuff at an entry level, you know.
Yeah.
But again, Greg being the consummate professional, he's. I mean, we joke and we gouge each other a lot, but he's a good dude, and I'm sure you're going to have a positive experience there.
Mhm.
What I love about your music the most, and I'll close on this, I think, is that none of it sounds the same. So that's why when I'm picking out my favorite artists, and that's why you've been one of my favorites locally for a long time, is that I call it the Nickelback syndrome, and Nickelback will never ever sign with SCR because I totally rag on them way too much. But I find that there are certain bands that one song kind of sounds like the next, and I can't always tell them apart. Uh,
Right.
that's not Rachel Cousins because, like I said, it's a melting pot of music for certain. Everything from
Thank you.
"Arrow of Love" was one of my favorites that you co-wrote there with Chris LeDrew.
Yep.
I love that song. Again, Let Go caught my ear really early on, and I'm not a pop music fan per se. It's not my,
Mhm.
again, I grew up on Guns N' Roses and
Right.
trad music as well. But
Yeah.
again, my tastes have changed over the years, and I'll listen to pretty much anything now and pick the good and the bad out
Mhm.
of all of it. And Let Go really caught my ear when it came out. But more importantly, one of my favorite songs, period, you've heard me say this a million times, is Aftermath, and it's one of your newer ones. So to me, what that tells you from my perspective is that as you're continuing on, you're getting better. So, you know, you're 22, you've got a long road ahead of you. I think that there's nothing but good things to come, and I want to wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And thank you for all you've done. Like our connection has also brought on a lot of like great things and a lot of great people. And I definitely appreciate everything that you've done for me and this podcast and all of that. I really appreciate it.
No, no, like I said, when we can do these things and have fun at the same time is a win-win. So
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Hmm.
thank you so much. And again, thanks for sharing the bench at Downey's Bank.